Travel can be ridiculously expensive, but it doesn't have to be that way. Imagine your dream destinations. What if I told you that you could visit any of them, all of them, for basically free? And not only that, but you could even fly first class or stay in 5-star hotels if you want to. A couple years back, my wife and I quit our jobs and traveled full-time for 6 months through Europe and Asia, and our journey was incredible. One of the best parts was we did that without spending our life savings, thanks to a stash of nearly 2 million points and miles we had earned through strategic travel credit cards. Now, you might not want to travel as extensively as we did or as long as we did, but how about a free vacation every year? That is very achievable. In this free masterclass, I'm going to explain how to travel the world for basically free with points and miles. I'll give you a high-level overview of what travel rewards are, provide inspiration on ways to redeem them, and break down the basics of how to earn them. Then, we'll dive deeper into exactly how to book with points and miles for maximum value, and learn how to identify which travel credit cards are truly worth it. I'll also show you the exact travel rewards card I recommend for most travelers, and how to decide if it's right for you. By the end of this video, you should have a very solid grasp of how all of this works, and ultimately be able to visit those places you've always wanted to without emptying your wallet. This is the exact resource I wish I had had when I was just getting started. But before we get into the good stuff, first, I made a simple workbook companion to this video with helpful definitions and links, as well as my top recommended cards and resources. You can grab that here or using the link down below. Next, a quick disclaimer. Basically, everything I'm going to mention in this video is focused on credit cards you can get here in the United States. And I'm sorry, because I know that we have viewers that aren't in the USA. Depending on where you're from, there may be options for you, but I am not suited to speak to them. Secondly, credit cards are a double-edged sword. If you can't handle the temptation of having access to a credit card, I want you to just turn off this video. What I'm about to share requires discipline, and my goal is not to convince you to do something irresponsible. And so to be responsible, you need to know how this all works. I see many people not get started because they're afraid and because they believe myths about credit cards and credit scores and just how this works in general. Like, Nick, this sounds great, but opening new credit cards is going to wreck my credit score. This is nonsense. Opening new credit cards can actually boost your credit score if done correctly. Why would that be? Well, your lenders do look at your credit score to decide whether or not to approve you for credit cards, and credit inquiries, or when a bank runs a credit check on you after applying, are a factor that influences your score. But it's only one of 5 factors. The others are payment history. Do you pay your bills on time? Credit utilization. How much of your available credit are you using? Lower utilization is better. Length of credit history. How long have you had credit accounts? Credit mix, the different types of credit accounts you have, and new credit, how often you apply for new credit accounts. And these are weighted differently, with payment history and utilization being the most heavily weighted factors. So, does applying for a credit card hurt your credit score? Not really. It might cause a short-term dip because you've got an inquiry on your record, but over time, if you're using cards responsibly and keeping your utilization low, it'll actually improve your score in the long run. Myth number 2.
Nick, my cousin's friend Paul told me that carrying a balance is going to help my credit score. I should do that, right?
No. Carrying a balance means you're paying interest, which benefits the credit card company and not you. Instead, pay your card in full after each statement is released, and set up automatic payments to ensure that you never miss a due date. Finally, Nick, this whole travel rewards thing seems sketchy. Like, flying in a business class seat for free seems like cheating. When is somebody going to figure it out and send me a bill? Is this whole travel rewards thing ethical? Is it legal? 100%. Yes, it's ethical. Yes, it's legal. And no, someone isn't about to find you out and send you a bill. Using travel credit cards to earn points and miles is a perfectly legitimate and ethical way to cut down on your travel costs. And credit card companies offer these rewards knowingly to encourage cardholders to use their cards. Now that you have a solid understanding of how credit works, let's move on to the exciting part: earning and redeeming travel rewards. Travel rewards, also called points and miles, are a type of digital currency meant to drive loyalty. And they can be earned by participating in reward programs offered by airlines, hotels, and all sorts of other travel-related companies. These programs are designed to incentivize us to choose one of those companies over a competitor by offering some type of reward or benefit in exchange for our continued patronage. Now, points and miles can be earned in a number of different ways, as you likely already know, and once earned, they can be redeemed for a variety of rewards, like free flights, hotel stays, and more. What does redeeming points mean? Redeeming your points is simply the act of using them, but these points can only be used for certain things. Remember what I said, points are a digital currency meant to drive loyalty. One of the main levers being pulled to drive loyalty is the fact that this currency can only be spent or redeemed in certain ways and in certain places. Picture going to an arcade. You're spending your money to play these games, but as you're playing, you're getting tickets. And those tickets can't really get you much of anything in the real world. But with enough tickets at the arcade, you can buy yourself a Chinese finger trap, or heck, if you've got enough, even a giant teddy bear. Well, points and miles are essentially the same thing, except instead of spending them to get a cheap piece of junk, you get to use them to take an amazing vacation. So you might be asking, what are these points worth? If this is a digital currency, it must have some kind of value. When you use your points, how do you know if you're getting a good value, getting your money's worth, so to speak? Right? Would you be better served to play 400 hours of skee ball to win that giant teddy bear? Or would it have cost you less in the end to just pay cash for it instead? Later in this video, I'll show you how to calculate the redemption value of any travel you're thinking about booking so you know if it's a good use of your points or not. What can I use my points for? Well, you can use your points for all kinds of things: flights, hotels, rental cars, cruises, dining, and much, much more. But in this video, we're going to focus mostly on hotels and a disproportionate amount of attention on flights because that is truly the most complicated area. But with adequate attention on those two areas alone, it's the majority of the typical person's travel cost. Now, there's really four major categories of points and miles in the travel world: airline miles, hotel points, transferable points, and fixed value points. Airline miles, probably obvious, are rewards specific to airlines that you can redeem for flights. And if you've ever heard of Airline Alliances, you can even use these miles to book flights on other airlines. For example, you could use United miles to book a United flight, or you could use United miles to book a Lufthansa flight using the same booking platform, United.com. Hotel points, also probably obvious. You can use these for free hotel stays, upgrades to a nicer room, and a bunch of other perks. Detailed walkthroughs of this are going to be later in the video. Transferable points. These are a type of point earned through credit card rewards programs that can then be transferred to a whole bunch of different travel partners like airlines and hotels. For example, my #1 recommended travel credit card for most travelers, the Chase Sapphire Preferred Card, earns a point called Ultimate Rewards, and those points can be transferred to several different airlines and major hotel chains. Example, you could transfer 1,000 Ultimate Rewards points to United Airlines from Ultimate Rewards, and now you've got 1,000 United miles. Transferable points are a very strategic way to earn because they allow you to choose which partner to transfer your points to based on your needs. These are by far my favorite. Fixed value points. This is a type of reward that has a predetermined cash value. For example, where 1 point equals 1 cent. In that example, 10,000 points would equal $100 towards travel. Capital One is a good example of this. With cards like the Capital One Venture X Rewards credit card, you earn Venture Rewards miles, and then you can use those points to book all sorts of travel. One cool way to use points like this is to reimburse yourself for purchases that you've made towards travel that are otherwise not part of any specific loyalty program. I use these for Airbnbs and rental cars all the time. Okay, that's the 4 categories. Anything else? The last fundamental we need to cover is award availability. Airlines and hotels don't make the entirety of their rooms and airplane seats bookable with points. This inventory is finite. And what I mean is there are only a certain number of airplane seats on any given flight that you can book with points. There are only a certain number of rooms per night at any given hotel you can book with points. This becomes especially accentuated when you're trying to fly in luxury seats during certain times of year or on very popular routes. And when you introduce booking a seat on a flight on one of that airline's partner airlines, availability gets even more scarce. All right, now let's talk about how to earn travel rewards. The best way to earn travel rewards by far is by opening credit cards that offer welcome bonuses. Here's a few quick definitions. A welcome bonus is an incentive that companies offer so that you'll be interested in applying for a credit card. This is typically something like sign up today and get 60,000 points when you spend $4,000 in the first 3 months. In this instance, the welcome bonus is the 60,000 points. Another term you need to know is minimum spending requirement. A minimum spending requirement is the amount of money that you have to spend using your new card, typically within a certain period of time before you can earn the welcome bonus. So in our example, it's the $4,000 in that 3-month time period. Now this varies widely, but in many cases, a single welcome bonus is sufficient to cover round-trip flights from the USA to Europe, so you could easily see how fun this can be. Now, a really important reminder here is don't spend money you don't have, and don't spend money you wouldn't have spent. In this example, $4,000 in 3 months for many people can be achieved simply by putting all your bills, your groceries, and your normal spending on that card. That leads me to the next best way to earn travel rewards: spending. Every purchase you make with your travel rewards credit card will earn you points and miles. For example, every $1 equals 1 airline mile, or every $1 equals 1 hotel point. But you can amplify your earnings by spending within certain bonus categories. For example, some cards offer bonus points for dining, shopping at supermarkets, purchasing fuel. And this varies widely, not just by loyalty program, but by card. For example, a card might earn 3 times points per dollar spent at restaurants, 2 times points on all travel, and then 1x point on everything else. As you get into earning points and miles, and as you start to carry more than just 1 or 2 cards, you can see where doing a little math is going to help you so that you know what purchases to make with what card. You need a plan, and you can probably see pretty quickly how doing this right is really going to add up. The next way to earn is travel portals. A lot of these travel credit cards also come with their own specific apps and portals. Booking your travel through your credit card's travel portal can earn you additional points or miles. So to add to the example I just gave, you could earn 2 points per dollar on any travel purchases, but if you book through that brand's travel portal, you could actually earn 5 points per dollar spent. It's not always the best way to book, but sometimes it can be a great way to earn extra points. Another very common type of portal is a shopping portal. Many travel rewards programs have online shopping portals that allow you to earn additional rewards for shopping at certain retailers. By starting your online shopping journey through these portals, you can earn extra points or miles on purchases that you were already planning to make. For example, if you were going to buy a gift from Macy's, you could simply start your shopping journey in a shopping portal. The list of possible retailers is huge: Old Navy, Nike, 1-800-CONTACT, Home Depot. The list goes on and on. For those looking to maximize their travel rewards, there are several what I would call creative strategies to consider. The list is certainly not exhaustive, but it's just going the extra mile or doing something possibly unconventional in order to stack up points. For example, you could be strategic with large purchases like paying for a wedding or a home renovation with your credit card to earn a large number of rewards. Real life example, we had a hailstorm a few years back and we had to replace our roof. Thankfully, it was covered by insurance, so I didn't actually have to pay anything out of pocket. The insurance company just wrote me a check. Well, I asked the roofer I hired if he would accept a credit card, which they don't normally do, but I told him that's what it was going to take to get my business. And he said, yes. So I deposited the check into our bank account, paid the roofer with a credit card, and then I paid off the card with the money from the check. And in the process, I earned an insane amount of points. This was like a $14,000 purchase. You could also add what's called an authorized user to your account to help you earn more rewards. This is essentially you getting a copy of your credit card and letting someone else spend on it. This makes sense for couples or sometimes parent-child relationships. An extreme version would be getting an authorized user card for a friend and letting them buy stuff and pay you back. I would not enter into that lightly. Don't, advise creating unnecessary friction in your friendships. But if you add a user, just make sure it's someone you trust. Finally, if you travel for work, consider paying for your travel expenses yourself and getting reimbursed by your company if that sort of thing is allowed, so you can earn even more rewards. It can be tempting once you learn about travel rewards to just go sign up for the next travel credit card offer you see, but not all points are created equal, so it's very important to have a goal for how you'll use your points. Here are some use cases to inspire you on how you could redeem. Maybe you want to take your family to Disney World and have your flights and hotels cost you nothing. Maybe you're traveling to Italy and you want to stay in a luxurious hotel overlooking the Ponte Vecchio Bridge. Maybe for your honeymoon or an anniversary, you'd love to stay in an overwater villa in the Maldives. Maybe you want to fly first class from the USA to Tokyo, enjoying the utmost in luxury and dining. I'll give you a use case of what should have been one of the most expensive 48-hour periods of my life, and it was practically free thanks to points and miles. At the end of my wife and I's 6-month trip, I really wanted to do something special as kind of an exclamation point. We spent 2 nights at Hotel Longarno in Florence overlooking the Ponte Vecchio Bridge for one last romantic night in Italy. And then we flew home from Rome to Chicago in American Airlines flagship business class. All of this together should have cost over $12,000, and we paid just $275. Now, $275 is not nothing, but it's way less than one person would have normally spent for one international flight. This is just one example of what we were able to do thanks to points and miles. So before moving on, get clear on your goal. What's a trip you would love to take? Are you going after stretching your budget as far as you possibly can and using points for free flights, free hotels? Doesn't matter how nice they are, just get me there. Or are you going after that luxurious splurge experience? It's very nice, let me tell you, to have a 12-hour flight be way more comfortable. Or are you something in between? I've personally done all of these. One consideration is where you're going and what region or part of the world it's going to be in. The reason I say this is that can help determine what loyalty programs to consider, and when we dive into credit cards later on, which cards and programs specifically are going to help you achieve that goal. Now let's talk about how to redeem travel rewards. Redeeming your points or miles for travel can be one of the most confusing and intimidating parts of this whole travel rewards thing. And what I've witnessed is there's a lot of people with points just sitting on the sidelines. So let me say this. The purpose of earning points is to use them. I know many people who have massive stashes of points, and if you're saving up for some big trip, that's great, but be careful not to do that for too long. Point programs get devalued over time, and in certain cases, points expire. So if you're the person hoarding your points right now, here's your reminder: use your points. Now, there's levels to everything, and I'm going to walk you through some basic and intermediate redemption methods, and along the way, I'll show you how to calculate the redemption value so you know you're getting your money's worth, so to speak. There's such an immense spectrum of ways to do this, and my intention is to teach you the fundamentals and give you some tools to do this yourself, but I can't possibly cover every scenario or nuance in this video. That would be like if you're taking music lessons and you expect your teacher to teach you every song you'll ever want to play. If they're a good teacher, they're going to teach you the fundamental skills and techniques. Same thing applies here. So if you remember the 4 main types of travel rewards: airline miles, hotel points, transferable points, and fixed value points, I'm going to show you different ways to book using each of these. Let's start very, very basic. Booking directly with hotels and airlines. The most basic way of redeeming is using points to book direct with airlines and hotels. You're going to want to sign up for the hotel and airline loyalty programs for any place you're going to book. These are free, and the easiest way to begin is to simply make sure that any flight you're taking or hotel you're staying in, you just go ahead and join their loyalty program. Here's the basic step-by-step guide on how to book an award flight with Airline Miles. You'll go to the website of the airline that you want to book with. Look for the option to search for award flights, and you're probably going to have to log in. And this may be labeled differently depending on the airline. For example, book with miles, redeem flights, etc. Enter your departure and arrival cities, travel dates, and number of passengers. You'll browse through the available flights and select the one you want. Make sure you have enough miles in your account to cover the flight, and if you don't, you may be given the option to purchase additional miles. Confirm the flight details and complete the booking process. It's that easy. Now, look, you'll almost always have to pay something. There's taxes and fees like fuel surcharges when you book using points, and this varies intensely by airline, country, etc., and some are unavoidable. Some are avoidable, like baggage fees. That's a choice. I'm usually a carry-on only traveler, but that's up to you. If you have the credit card of the airline you're flying with, a perk that's often offered if you book using that card is a free checked bag. All right, when it comes to hotels in the points and miles world, the four main players are Hilton, Hyatt, Marriott, and IHG. Now, there's of course a bunch of others, but in terms of major loyalty programs, these are the big boys, and I would just go ahead and sign up for all four of these loyalty programs. The basic, simplest beginner process of booking a hotel night is almost identical to booking an award flight. You're going to search for the hotel, the dates, select book with points, make sure you have enough points, and voila. But here's a few hotel specific nuances. There's often an option now where you can use points plus cash. If you don't have enough points to cover your entire booking, some of these companies will allow you to book using a combination of both points and cash, and you can kind of play with how you want to do that. Booking with a free night certificate. Every one of the programs I mentioned offers a free night certificate, typically when you carry one of their co-branded credit cards. Not always, but most of the time. The booking process looks very similar, except you'll use a free night certificate when you book. Usually, these free night certificates are limited to a certain category of hotels or a hotel stay under a certain amount of points. There's also what are called multi-night discounts. Marriott, book 4 award nights, get the 5th night free. Hilton, book 4 award nights, get a 5th night free. IHG, book 3 award nights, get a 4th free. And Hyatt, nothing. Okay, let's move on to some more intermediate and advanced redemption strategies now. Online travel portals. Using online travel portals offered by credit card companies can be a great way to earn points, but it's also a good place to redeem them. The pros are you can book all kinds of flights and accommodations, even ones that may not be transfer partners of the card you have, and you can book using your points with that bank. If you don't have sufficient points, you can also use a combo of points and cash. Now, a con is these booking engines are often undergirded by third parties like Hopper, Booking.com, etc., which means you aren't booking direct with the airline hotel, which means you won't get status or elite credits. The other thing is sometimes the pricing in these portals can be higher than booking direct, and you may often get a better value from your points by just transferring them instead. Transfer partners. With cards like the Chase Sapphire Preferred Card or the Capital One Venture X Reward Credit Card and many, many more, you can transfer your points to partner airlines and then book directly using those points. Now, this part really intimidates people, so I'm going to show you how to do it. 3 steps: search, transfer, and book. So, for example, let's say I find a flight on Singapore Airlines, but I don't have any KrisFlyer miles in my account. I know that Singapore Airlines is a transfer partner of Chase, so I can go to my Chase account and transfer the exact amount of miles I need to Singapore Airlines. Now, note, make sure your flight is available before you do this because the transfer goes one way and you can't put miles back into your Chase account. Then I proceed to book my flight with Singapore Airlines. Now, you're probably thinking, okay, but what if I want to fly with an airline that isn't one of my card's transfer partners? Let's talk briefly about Airline Alliances. Maybe you've heard of these, but what are they for? Think of Airline Alliances as big teams of airlines from around the world. By teaming up, they can offer you more destinations, smoother connections, and better service. Airline Alliances help you have a more connected and comfortable journey, especially if you're flying internationally. And they are very crucial to points and miles and airline loyalty programs because often you can use your points with one airline to book flights on another airline in that alliance. There's 3 major alliances: Star Alliance, One World, and SkyTeam. So one example of this, American Airlines is not a transfer partner of Chase, but they are in an alliance with British Airways, and you can get British Airways Avios from many of the big programs, Chase being one of them. Using transferable points to transfer them to airlines can be one of the most valuable uses of your points. And then if you understand the various airline alliances out there, it can be even more powerful. So because of all of this, when someone comes to me and asks, Nick, if I only want one card to start, what should it be? My honest answer for most people is a card like the Chase Sapphire Preferred card, because it allows you to earn those Chase Ultimate Rewards points. And then, not to mention, the annual fee is very reasonable, and it connects to most of the high value redemptions I share in this video. I've used that card and other Chase cards to redeem over $150,000 worth of travel in the past 5 years, and that is not an exaggeration. If you want to dig into the current offer and all the fine print, I put a link in the description below, and you can find all the legal affiliate disclosures there as well. Okay, now that you know the simple, easy, basic way to use points, let's talk about points values. Points and miles, as I've said, are a type of digital currency, so they have a value. And when you use your points, how do you know if you're getting a good value, getting your money's worth, so to speak? So to figure this out, you need to consider 2 things. First, point value. What is a given point or mile actually worth in terms of dollars and cents? And then redemption value, the value for points or miles in this specific booking. So what is any given point or mile worth? Much smarter people than me spend a lot of time figuring this out, and there's resources that I reference regularly. I use the Points Guy, and they have a list of every points currency out there, and they've determined the cash value for these points. You'll notice that these are all expressed in cents per point. Right, Chase Ultimate Rewards, 2.05 cents per point. Southwest Airlines, 1.5 cents per point, etc. They update this huge list monthly. This is very data-driven, but in the end, it's still kind of subjective. So if this says American Airlines miles are worth 1.7 cents per point, then that's a great goal to shoot for when redeeming. That's point value. So what about redemption value? Well, to determine redemption value, we need to do a little math. And what we're solving for is that same figure, cents per point. So when considering the value of any given redemption, what you need is the typical cash price for that redemption and what it would cost if you used points or miles. The basic formula is cash price divided by number of points, and then you multiply that by 100. But award bookings tend to have taxes and fees, remember? So let's include that too. We'll subtract that from the cash price. So find out the cash value of the flight or hotel you're redeeming your points for, then determine the number of points you'll need to use plus any taxes and fees. Now subtract the taxes and fees from the cash value and divide that number by the number of points. Then you multiply by 100 to get the value in cents. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not a fan of having to remember steps or do a bunch of manual math personally. I would rather have a tool do it for me. I linked the one that I use below. It's super simple to use. So here's an American Airlines flight that would normally cost $200, but this flight costs 19,000 American Airlines miles plus $5.60 in taxes and fees. I'm going to plug this in to our calculator. $200 cash price, 19,000 points or miles to redeem, $5.60 taxes and fees for redemption, and it spits out the cents per point you're currently getting and then automatically tells you what the best value will be. In this case, you would probably be better off just paying cash. All right, so I want to share a little case study with you from a time that I flew my entire family to Europe in Austrian Airlines business class. I actually used several of the techniques that I show here in this video. So I was searching around on United.com, which is actually a great place to find award flights for more airlines than just United, thanks to the Star Alliance network. My goal was simply to find affordable ways to get to Europe in a business class seat. We didn't have a specific destination in mind. I was just determined to find a great deal and then build a trip around that. Upon searching United, I found a trip from Chicago to Vienna in business class. The flights were on Austrian Airlines, which is a Star Alliance airline. Now, this isn't the most amazing seat in the world, but it's a lie flat seat. They have a professional chef on board, and this can normally retail for over $5,000 per person. And I found it for just 88,000 United miles. That redemption worked out to be about 7 cents per point. Now, I decided to book my wife's seat through Avianca Life Miles at a rate of only 63,000 points, resulting in a redemption of just under 10 cents per point. This is just one example of what's called a sweet spot or a really great deal in the world of points and miles. Here's a few more examples and sweet spot redemptions I pulled off. I transferred points directly to Emirates. This first class booking between Milan and New York would have cost over $6,000 per person, but I booked this seat at a rate of around 5 cents per point. Singapore Airlines Chris Flyer, especially if you can find Saver Award tickets. I've flown business and economy multiple times. This redemption right here was worth almost 6 cents per point. Another amazing option is booking hotels through World of Hyatt, with high-end properties being a non-ridiculous number of points and lower-end properties being only 3,500 to 5,000 points per night. You can stay at some very amazing places for very few points. One of my favorite transfer partners from Chase Ultimate Rewards specifically is Virgin Atlantic. Earlier this year, my wife Allie flew round trip to the UK for a solo trip to Scotland using her Chase Ultimate Rewards points to score Virgin Atlantic upper class for only 89,000 points round trip. But by far my favorite use of Virgin Miles is their partnership with ANA. You can book tickets to Japan on ANA using Virgin's fixed award chart. And last January, I flew this amazing ANA first class seat that cost nearly $15,000 cash for just 85,000 Virgin miles I got through Chase, which was a redemption rate of 17.29 cents per point. There's levels to this stuff, and while you definitely need to use your points before they expire, remember, just because a flight or hotel is free doesn't mean it's a good deal. And I know that for many people, this part feels the most complicated, the most time-consuming, and the most intimidating, but I hope the simple math in this video has shown you that if you're sitting on a pile of points, there is a way to get extreme value out of them. If you want help navigating this entire process, finding award availability, knowing which transfer partners to use, booking the actual flights without losing your mind, I built a full course called Redemption Roadmap that breaks it all down very simply and walks you through everything step by step. It's specifically designed for people who already have points and want to get maximum value out of them without spending hours researching. I've linked more info on that below if you want to join the waitlist to be notified next time I open the doors. And if you're sitting on a mountain of Chase Ultimate Rewards points specifically, be sure to check out this next video. Hope this one was helpful to you. Thank you so much for watching. Happy travels.